Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see, we are in the garage today. We'll be working on the Corvette yet again, and today's video is going to be all about cooling. So you guys know that we're installing this LS9 swap, 2650 swap onto my 05 Corvette. So, you know, this is an 05 that has all aftermarket cooling hoses from Mishimoto. And basically what we'll be doing today is kind of going over the retrofitting the LS3 to the LS9 stuff and seeing all what has to be customized, as well as the supercharger coolant stuff, because we've got a Edelbrock heat exchanger down there. You guys can see that down in there, and we're going to have to do some custom cooling for that as well. So we'll be covering the coolant system for the motor as well as the blower today, and let's go ahead and jump into it. So as you guys have known from the previous videos that, you know, we've pretty much gotten everything mocked up except for the power steering over there and the blower itself. Once we get the blower installed, then we can go ahead and do the coolant side of it for the supercharger, but for right now we can do the motor side of it. If you guys look down below, I think the Mishimoto hose is going to work just fine. There is a little bit of a bend in it right here, so maybe if I cut the top of it off like ½ inch, ¼ inch, that might take some of that bend out. I mean, it is full, yeah, it is full diameter. Just, you can kind of see it. There's a, I don't want to call it a kink, but there's a bend right there. So that's the lower radiator hose. As far as the upper, guys, I might just leave it the way it is. You know, there's no sharp bends, no sharp kinks. There's a little one right here, but, you know, I don't think I should be overly concerned about that. It is a full size. Again, I could cut a ¼ inch, ½ inch off, shove it closer that way. But the thing I don't have in here just yet is the power steering pump. So I know that whole contraption will basically sit over there. And I don't know how much room we will gain or lose by moving this hose back toward the motor ½ inch. Yeah, it's kind of TBD on that. So we'll get back to that. And then there's the whole steam port issue. This, guys, I ran into a big problem with this. Wasn't aware that we'd be running into an issue with the steam ports. I thought they were all the same. But basically how the LS9 works is the steam ports are blocked off from the back. There's none in the back. And the front, they basically have a port that goes here. It goes up and over the tensioner. And same thing with the driver's side. It kind of goes up toward the valve cover, then straight. So you've got a port here, a port here. And you guys can see our stock LS2, LS3 setup just has one in the middle. Well, mine has a T in it because I actually have a T going back to the steam ports right here. You guys will see this hose right here. This was actually connected to that. So I actually do have my rear steam ports opened up. You guys can see that video up above. But those rear steam ports, all I did, you know, when I did that a couple years ago, all I used was a truck front, I believe it was. And, you know, I plugged it in. I had to bend it a little bit. And then I ran this hose up front, teed it into the front. And then, you know, that connects to the reservoir over there. And then it connects to the top of the radiator over here. But like I said, for the LS9, there's basically a port here and a port here. So we've got two lines we need to connect. And we have this third connection right here. And yeah, so basically what I ordered some AN fittings that will plug here with a 45-degree fitting. And then my plan is to use some of this hose. I actually still have some of this left over from the rear port project. And I run it over the tensioner, between the alternator tensioner, and then over into this wire right here. And I ordered some T-fittings. We're going to cut this and cut this, add those T-fittings in here. And that should work. Actually, now that I look at it, I might only need the one. I might only need one over here, but we'll see. All right, guys, got a little bit of a cooling update and kind of order of operations. You guys can see we're about to put the blower on. In the install video, you've already seen the blower, but you guys will be able to see that we have these 45-degree -4 AN fittings, and then I've got this AN fitting coming out of the block, actually the cylinder head. And what that is to allow, that's to allow us to run our ¼ inch coolant hose up and over the alternator and up and over the power steering pump. So that was the easiest way for me to get these connected to our factory cooling system, was to go ahead and install these AN pieces like I said. I think I got both of them on Amazon. I'll drop some links down below for these, but yeah, so this is the easiest way to try to integrate an LS9 into your LS3 with the blower and all that. And like I said, the parts from GM were discontinued, so this was probably the best bet that we have for this. So to continue that project, we're going to be working on the belts, the pulleys, and the alternator. And I actually need to get all those set up and everything put in the car before we finish up this cooling project, because I kind of need to know where the belt's going to route, both the blower belt as well as the accessory drive belt. I kind of need to have those in place to see what we need to trim, move, cut, whatever. And to get that project started, you guys will see we've got a bunch of stuff lined up. We've got the stock tensioner, we've got the stock alternator, then we've got 3 idler pulleys, and then we've got a factory idler pulley over here on the, this will be on the passenger side. So, you know, so I've got 3 idler pulleys. The stock size for the driver's side is 76 millimeter. I have a 90 millimeter, then I've got a 100 millimeter. So we've got kind of a bunch of different sizes. Oh, and also for the supercharger itself, we have a 3.25 inch 11 rib pulley. And yes, obviously this is from Edelbrock. So those pulleys are going to look real familiar because it's the same kind of pulley that we had on the 2300 previously. So you guys will know that I have 3 different size idler pulleys for the driver's side. And basically, long story short, is we're just going to put the pulley that fits the best with the bolt length that we have. And it's kind of how everyone I've talked to has told me how to kind of tune this. Try to put the biggest pulley on that the belt will fit around, and then you should be good to go. Alright guys, actually a little bit of an update. If you guys can see down there, I actually didn't cut that at all. I just ended up shoving the line on there a little bit harder, and I do have to, I'm not going to take it back off. I'm going to just loosen this hose clamp up and route it over there and tighten it back down. But yeah, so I mean the LS2, LS3 lines plugged right in. So this upper one, you know, it kind of depends how you turn it, because it impacts where it hits that lower, you know, down over there. And, you know, we're going to be fighting for throttle body space, intake space. And then we'll go ahead and get the stock AC belt on the accessory drive belt. It's a 6 rib belt. It's part number 60645 or 6PK1635. All right, guys, so we did manage to get the accessory drive belt on. You guys can see it's going around the alternator, the idler pulley down here, the AC compressor, over the idler, actually that's the tensioner, and then up and around the crank pulley. So, guys, this was actually pretty complicated to get to. I had to take the water pump neck off to get the proper reach, because I'll be honest, I don't remember my LS2 or LS3 setup ever having a problem getting the AC belt tensioner on. Maybe I had to do the same thing. It's been really forever since I've ever had to do one of these belts, but yeah, like I had to make room to get to it, and thankfully the car was torn down, so you know there's no coolant in the radiator or the motor. So I had to take the thermostat housing off, and I was able to get the full range of motion I needed for the wrench to get that tensioner all the way to the driver's side. And the other thing that I had to do, if you guys can see, there's a sensor, you know, the cam and it might be the crank position sensor. I actually had to take that off. I had to loosen the top bolt all the way off, and then the bottom bolt, there's one on the bottom of the motor. I had to loosen that one up by hand because you know no tools would fit on it. So this, pointing toward it right now, that sensor down there, that whole trigger wheel, if that's what we want to call that, I had to basically remove that to get the belt fed behind it, slip behind it. Then I was able to get that back on there. So that's pretty much gonna be it for the passenger side with the cooling. All the radiator hoses are hooked up, the lower, the 2 hoses into the water pump, those are both hooked up. Do need to find another hose clamp because I did ruin one. All right, guys, I got the top radiator hose fitted. As you guys can see, I did cut a little bit over here, and you guys can see the pulley spinning without issue. We've got about a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch, so I think we should be fine. And the other thing I did was I actually ran the hose all the way up into the water pump, not just that first notch like I had it showed earlier. So we should be good to go. As far as the front, I only clipped it off up until where I had the hose clamp. So hose clamp is like roughly 1/4 inch wide. You know, so basically the width of this, that's pretty much all that I had to trim off from the front of this hose clamp. And we're able to use the, you know, the Mishimoto hose, silicone hose without issue with the LS9. So, you know, you probably could cut another, I don't know, 1/4 inch off, or pull the hose back off of the water pump as far as it is. As you can see, the ATI idler pulley here, this is actually a 90 millimeter. This is what actually was on my E-Force. we're going to start off with that. If I have to go smaller, we will. If we have to go bigger, I will. And then over here on the passenger side, you guys can see I just have the stock 76 millimeter idler. I just installed the last pulley. This is the 3.25 inch Kong. Well, it's really a Edelbrock 11 rib pulley. Didn't get the grip tech this time. I actually do have another pulley on me, but I just want to start off when we get the car tuned initially with the 3.25 inch pulley. 37 foot-pounds for the passenger and driver idler, and the supercharger pulley will torque down to 8 foot-pounds. All right, guys, so we've pretty much finished up the driver's side steam ports. So you guys can see the silicone hose coming from the back. I put that into a T. That T is going down into that 45-degree fitting that we showed earlier, that AN fitting. So that goes down there. And then on the other side of the T, I ran this hose through up underneath the reservoir hose, and I put another T fitting here. So like I said, I'm still waiting for those Gates clamps, and when those come in, I will put those where we need them, you know, so clamp these down. And I'm going to paint that brass fitting black just so it kind of disappears. I'm going to get started on the last major component of the cooling project on this car, and that is the supercharger cooling system. And as you guys know, we completely ripped out all the Edelbrock eForce 2300 parts. We basically have to start over. And so we're going to replace the rest of that system with all custom hoses and 90-degree fittings. So let's show you what we got. We got, I think, 20 feet of 3/4 inch hose from Vibrant. Yeah, so that's Vibrant part number 2045. I got these 30 degrees elbows. Basically, it's going to split your line in half, and those are both from Synergy Motorsports. The 15-degree fittings, those are dash 12. Those are from Racetronics. And I did buy a 90-degree fitting. This is from HPS. This is going to come right outside the heat exchanger and up. This is me on the driver's side. And like I said, we do our Gates hose clamps, and those are part number 32929, and the working size is 1 1/16 inch to 1 3/16 inch. So that should be perfect to put the hose clamps over our Synergy parts, our Racetronics parts, as well as the Vibrant hose. And I've actually kind of already started. So I did a trial piece on the 90-degree coming out of the heat exchanger, and I already put a Gates clamp on here, and it worked pretty well. All you have to do is make sure you heat up the clamp with plenty of heat. I mean, obviously, don't put too much heat on it because you might burn it, but obviously, you know, heat, rotate, heat, rotate, heat, rotate. Then I got this, I think I got this joiner from ICT Billet. It's a 3/4 to 3/4, and yeah, so this will basically be the start of our kit coming out of the driver's side of the heat exchanger. I know you guys won't be able to see that very well, but down in there, there is a opening, and this will come out basically from there and go straight up. See that I jumped ahead a little bit. I wanted to get everything mocked up with everything in place just so that we make sure we're not going to run into any problems later down the road. So I got the carbon fiber Kong intake installed. I also got the 112 millimeter Kong throttle body. That is actually new. You guys haven't seen that. Well, it's new to me. I bought it off a buddy of mine. So the 112 throttle body, and I also put the radiator hose back in place. You guys can see that down over there. So we did get that back in place, and yeah. So basically all I've done is I have created the feed going into the supercharger. I have not done the coolant coming out of the supercharger. You guys will see that I took the existing hose that I had coming out of the water pump. This used to go into the back of the supercharger. Well, actually, the connection was back here. So it used to go into the supercharger from the side. That routed to the front, and then the return went down there. So all I did was I took that existing hose, I split it, I added the Synergy splitter here. We added it to the feed lines on the outside. I ran the other hose under the bottom and up and over, and so that's gonna go to the outside. Now the return is gonna go on the inside. I just hooked up the hose down there. I measured out to what we want. I'm gonna put this around here with the 90. We're gonna add our wise piece there. Then we're gonna have a hose going up to this side, and then a hose up underneath the throttle body up into the passenger side of the outlet of the LS9 lid. Taking the line out of the radiator and connected it to the Synergy port right here. Ran that line into the driver's side exit port of the lid. All I have to do next is put the Gates heat shrink clamps on them. So 2 here, 3 here, and 1 down there. So it's like 4 or 5 of them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I really like how this turned out. I've seen people run them different ways, and it just, I guess, just kind of depends on what package you have, because from the factory, the ZR1s have both inlets of the radiator over on the passenger side. I have them on both sides, so I had to run the hose to both sides of the motor. So yeah, there are some loops going up underneath the throttle body, but it's not hurting anything. It's not, and it's nowhere near the belt drive, so we're good there. We have finally finished up the supercharger cooling system. Not a huge project per se, but you know, it's just one more thing to get done. And I really like how everything, you know, formed. It forms a Y. It goes up to the driver's side, then it comes down the passenger side. And like I did mention earlier, yes, there are some hoses kind of going underneath, but that's no bigger deal. Now, they do sell these billet clamps that you could put these to, you know, tie them together like that, and maybe tie this set together too. We'll see. I'm just not sure if I really need them right now, but or you could always do the zip tie trick. But honestly, I don't want to see zip ties on top of the motor, so that billet clamp might be the way to go. But yeah, guys, I really like how all these parts fell into place. The Synergy Y splitters, really cool. They're anodized black, so they disappear into the engine bay. The Gates clamps, not a big ordeal using those. You just have to have a heat gun, and you know, I did all that. And like I said earlier, I think the labels will come off if you hit it with brake cleaner or acetone, one of the two. I think that will take the labels off. So yeah, so we have this side down here coming in. That's split. That is the return, you know, so the middle ports. And the other side is going into the otherwise splitter, and that is the feed. So yeah, so we are 100% done with the supercharger cooling system. All right, so that is one more item to cross off the list. Supercharger cooling lines and fabricate. We're done there. So yeah, that's gonna be it for the cooling video. So yeah, that's gonna be it for the cooling video. As you guys know, we had one more video to do, and that is the wiring video. And guys, I actually haven't really started on that. We did start a little bit on that much earlier in the project, moving the alternator wiring from the driver's side to the passenger side, but from now on, it's going to be pretty much all custom wiring, because the alternator has an adapter box we need to wire in. And I think there's going to be a couple things I'm going to need to lengthen and extend. The VAT purge solenoid is one of them, and maybe the throttle body. I do have a harness for that. Might have to repin that. So if you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you guys want to see that wiring video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Turn on your bell notifications. And if you guys want to help support the channel, I will drop links for everything that we used today down below. So those Gates hose clamps, the vibrant hose, I'm pretty sure I got that on Amazon. Synergy, those Y-block adapters, just go get that from Synergy Motorsports. And, oh, and the Racetronics, that's where I got those dash 12, 15 degree fittings. Try to get you some links for those as well. Also, make sure you check out our website, BonecrrusherSS.com. Any support you guys can give there comes right back into the channel. All these projects, you know, this has been quite the project, and if you guys could help me out, that'd be greatly appreciated. So thanks, guys. Have a great one.